Chapter 49:49. Sumu was stunned. Then she wanted to pull her hand back, but he held it tightly and didn't intend to let her go. Yi Xiaonan, what are you doing? Let me go. She unfastened the seat belt with her other hand and wanted to get out of the car. Unexpectedly, he also let her get out of the car. But as soon as she got out of the car, the man's voice came from the car lazily. You can't get out. The door needs to be specially activated after it is closed. Then, Yi Xiaonan got out of the car lazily. Standing under the moonlight, he looked inexplicably noble, but also very hateful. He wasn't drunk at all. He had been asleep just to make her let down her guard. Sumu gritted her teeth. Yi Xiaonan, you are so boring. He leaned against the car with a faint smile. From Mr. Yi to Yi Xiaonan, we are much closer. He walked towards her with a happy face. Sumu, stop it. Stay here. He caught her and trapped her between the car and himself. He was much gentler than before, probably because he was drunk. In Sumu's eyes, he was even gentle. He was very tall, and she was trapped by him. Even if she wore high heels, she could only reach his shoulders. And he was so close that she had to put her fingers on his shoulders to push him away, but it was very difficult. Sumu lowered his eyes and looked at his fine clothes. His voice trembled a little. Mr. Yi, you're drunk. He slightly lowered his head and whispered in her ear, Don't you know whether I am drunk or not? Yi Xiaonan admitted that he wanted to flirt with her. After all, it was related to a man's self-esteem. She was the mother of his child. He didn't allow her to think about others. In fact, it didn't matter whether she loved him or not, but she couldn't think about the man. So, it didn't matter if it was necessary to make a sacrifice. Indeed, not many women could withstand him like this. Sumu didn't love him, and she disliked him even more. Sometimes, when he was too arrogant, she even hated and loathed him. But in all fairness, few women could stand such a handsome and noble man who was full of coquettish words. Sumu couldn't take it either. She could only helplessly lean against the car, trying to get as far away from him as possible. Yi Xiaonan chuckled softly as he got closer and closer. Just then, the lights in the villa lit up and a voice rang out. Sir, you're back. I thought you weren't coming back. Annie-chan was standing at the entrance of the villa. She was wearing a coat over her pajamas. It was obvious that she had fallen asleep. She thought that Yi Xiaonan was alone, but when she looked closely, she saw Sumu. Her eyes widened. Miss Su, you're here too. Auntie Chen's voice became softer and she stammered, Sir, did I break something? Yi Xiaonan snorted. What do you think? Annie Chan was suddenly at a loss. Sir, I'm sorry. And Miss Su, I'm sorry. Miss Su, you look really good today. You're on a date with Sir, right? Well, if there's nothing else, I'm going to sleep first. I'm old and I sleep like a log. I won't wake up even if there's any movement. Auntie Chan said as she ran away, as if there was a ghost chasing after her. The air was filled with a mesmerizing atmosphere again. Of course, the faint warmth just now suddenly disappeared, and Yi Xiaonan didn't have that kind of heart anymore. Chapter 49:50. Half of it was because of the alcohol earlier, and the other half was because of the atmosphere. After all, a man and a woman were sitting in the same car, and he was a little tipsy as well. He just wanted someone to accompany him. Yi Xiaonan stuffed his hands in his pockets and took 2 steps back to let Sumu out. He then said calmly, There's a guest room here. It's getting late, so let's put up with it for the night. I'll go get the Cymbidium Chinese things tomorrow morning. Sumu didn't want to stay here. She wanted to avoid arousing suspicion. Yi Xiaonan could tell what she was thinking and laughed coldly. We've already made a child together. What's the point of avoiding suspicion? No one will believe it anyway. As for Xinwen Xuan, just give up. It's impossible between you and him, and his family won't agree to it either. His words were harsh. Sumu pursed her lips and didn't say anything. In the end, she still stayed. However, she didn't sleep on the 2nd floor and found a place to sleep on the 1st floor. She didn't even remove her makeup. That night passed peacefully. Early in the morning, Yi Xiaonan looked at her and frowned. You didn't take off this to sleep last night? And what the hell is on your face? There was a strong sense of disgust. Sumu ate her breakfast and said in a low voice, I'll do it when I get home. I'll return the clothes to you after I'm done washing them. Yi Xiaonan laughed coldly. What do I want this for? Am I going to wear it for myself or for my future wife? Forget it. You can keep it. You don't even have a single decent piece of clothing. Are you going to be so uncouth when you attend events in the future? He really had a sharp tongue and didn't hold back at all. Usually, he wouldn't be like this. He was probably still unhappy about being interrupted by Annie-chan last night. Annie-chan hid far away. She knew that her husband was unhappy, but she didn't know that her appearance would spoil his plans. She secretly thought that if she didn't appear, would he have gotten what he wanted? She thought so. The atmosphere was really good at that time. Sumu lowered her head and tore her toast. She spoke very slowly. Yi Xiangnan, you've actually been reminding me that we're not compatible. I also think that we're not compatible, but why do you insist on forcing us together? Don't you feel contradictory? Young master Yi Xiangnan's temper flared up once more as he placed his hands by his side and glared at her. You sure have a sharp tongue. I heard from my mother that you're going to rebuild your media career and become a streamer in the future. Now that you're so good at scolding people, you'll definitely succeed in the future. I've got to congratulate you in advance. Sumu felt that he was really poisonous and glared at him. Yi Xiangnan didn't give in either. His eyes and expression were full of mockery. Sumu said coldly, then I will accept CEO Ye's blessing in advance. Yi Xiangnan flung the tablecloth in his hand, stood up, and walked out. He didn't look like someone to be trifled with. After a while, the sound of a car engine came from outside. Sumu was still eating breakfast when Annie-chan came out of nowhere and whispered, Sir seems to be very unhappy. Miss Su, do you want to coax him? Why should I coax him? He's not a 3-year-old child. Sumu looked confused and didn't want to cooperate. Annie-chan felt that it was all her fault. Why did she come out yesterday? Otherwise, it wouldn't be like this now. Annie-chan wanted to say something to make up for it, but Sumu obviously didn't want to say it. Miss Su didn't seem to be easy to get along with. Annie-chan felt that she and Annie Wong had really misjudged her before. In the past, Miss Su was very kind, and of course she was very polite to her now. But now, she didn't seem to fall for Sir's tricks and didn't pay much attention to him. Was she charmed by Sir's beauty last night? Chapter 49-51. Updated quickly. In the past, Miss Su was very kind, and of course she was quite polite to her now. But now, it seemed like she did not fall for Sir's tricks at all and did not pay much attention to him. Was she mesmerized by Sir's beauty last night? Now that she was sober, she felt like she did not buy it at all. In Annie-chan's heart, she suddenly felt a sense of respect. Which woman would not fawn over their Sir? Miss Su was so strong and did not fall for Sir's tricks at all. Annie-chan's eyes were filled with light as she looked at Sumu. After Sumu finished her breakfast, she walked out slowly. In the car, Yi Xiangnan was already impatient from waiting, his long fingers tapping on the steering wheel. When he saw Sumu coming over, he opened the door to the front passenger seat and looked at her rudely. You still want to sit in the back seat? You want me to be your chauffeur? Sumu felt like she was fucking a dog in her heart, thinking that he was really being unreasonable. She got into the car and did not say anything. Yi Xiangnan seemed to be quite angry as he started the car. All the way until the car arrived at her place, they did not say a word. Sumu opened the door and got out. Yi Xiangnan also came down and followed her upstairs. Sumu did not think much and opened the door. But the moment she entered, he hugged her from behind. She could vaguely feel something and whispered, I don't think it's suitable for me to look like this right now, right? I don't want to be picky right now. He leaned close to her ear and smelled the faint perfume that she had sprayed last night. Sumu struggled and was very angry. I've never seen someone as shameless as you. Yes, I'm shameless. Then, who was the one who ran into my hotel room back then? He murmured, You provoked me first. I haven't even gotten married yet. Shouldn't I settle the interest with you? Sumu was so angry that she struggled again. You were the one who couldn't keep her. What does that have to do with me? You've forgotten about it after so many years. I didn't show up either. Why can't you get married? Yi Xiangnan, you're useless. Don't put the blame on me. Sharp-tongued, he snorted coldly. Who was the one who came out at the critical moment and said that she gave birth to my son? Sumu almost jumped up, but he didn't let her go. Now that Annie-chan is not here, no one can save you. He whispered in her ear. It was as if he didn't care about anything else other than angering her. Men were probably all like this. They clearly knew that there was someone else in her heart, but they still wanted to obtain it, wanted to conquer it. Sumu didn't know where she got the strength from, but she turned around and slapped him. Yi Xiangnan's expression was stagnant. He stared at her later. Shameless, Sumu said coldly. I'm not interested in Mr. Yi at all. There were obvious marks on Yi Xiangnan's face. He really wanted to hit back, but he let her go after staring at her for a long time. He took the Cymbidium Chinense luggage and snorted. Wash the damn thing on your face and change your clothes. My mother asked you to have dinner together. If it was in normal times, she wouldn't care about him. But yesterday, Cymbidium Chinense went to Ye's house. She was afraid that he would feel uneasy, so she wanted to see Cymbidium Chinense. Because Yi Xiangnan was here, Sumu didn't take a bath. She just cleaned her face and changed a set of clean clothes. She was neat, but also very simple. It was totally different from last night. Yi Xiangnan didn't expect her to be amazing. Anyway, she looked like this. She would look like this even if he killed her. He thought viciously in his heart. Chapter 49:52. On the way to the villa, the car was particularly silent, and no one spoke. Yi Xiangnan was angry, but Sumu hated him and didn't want to talk to him at all. Yi Xiannan purposely lit a cigarette and smoked in the car. She didn't even roll down the window. It was obvious that she wanted to piss her off. Sumu didn't say anything, but quietly opened the window on her side. The wind blew in, and she felt much better. Leaning her head against the back of the seat and looking at the scenery outside, she fell asleep unconsciously. It was probably because she didn't sleep well last night. Yi Xiangnan found that she was asleep, so he stopped at a red light and frowned at Sumu. Of course, other than being ordinary, there was nothing extraordinary about her. He kept frowning and didn't say anything. He just looked at her carefully, but in fact, he didn't know what he was looking at. What was so good about Sumu? This face was ordinary, and there was really nothing good about it. He put out the cigarette, closed the window, and slowed down a little. Otherwise, his mother would say that he bullied Sumu again. This woman was obviously not beautiful, but she had a bad temper and liked to hit people. He didn't even hit her. Yi Xiangnan's car slowly drove into one garden. Because it was Yi Xiangnan's gift to one yuan, it was called one garden, which was quite romantic. Yi Xiangnan stopped the car, and when he opened the door, he said lazily, like a pig. Sumu woke up, looked around, and bit her lower lip. Have we arrived? Because she was asleep, her voice was a little watery, and it was quite seductive. Yi Xiangnan glanced at her and didn't say anything. He got out of the car and took the luggage from the trunk. In fact, there wasn't much. Sumu was very poor, so how could she buy many things for a child? Yi Xiangnan didn't care and casually handed the luggage to the servant. Bring it to the young master's room. The servant immediately went, but he was very polite and nodded at Sumu. Hello, Miss Su. Sumu smiled. Not long after the servant went upstairs, he probably told Cymbidium Chinense that his mother was coming. Cymbidium Chinense quickly ran down from the second floor and threw himself into Sumu's arms, very clingy. Yi Xiannan frowned. Actually, he didn't want his son to be too attached to his mother and lose some of his manly spirit. However, Wen Yuan and Yi Mubai didn't think this way. They were unconditionally indulgent towards their grandson, but they were rather strict towards Yi Xiannan in the past. Sumu reached out and touched his son's head and smiled. You are still so. Cymbidium Chinense immediately stood up straight, looking very obedient. This made Yi Xiangnan feel very surprised. He felt that Sumu was very suitable to take care of Cymbidium Chinense. He always felt that Cymbidium Chinense would be spoiled if he followed his ancestors. But this was the best choice at the moment. As for the future, Yi Xiangnan still had some plans. Wen Yuan and Yi Mubai also came down from upstairs. Wen Yuan loved Sumu very much, and Yi Mubai also had a good impression of her. The elders were very open-minded. If there was no fate, it couldn't be forced. This was referring to Qin Huan. As for Sumu, it depended on Yi Xiangnan's own ability. He already had a son. If he couldn't handle the child's mother, it could only mean that he was too useless. Wen Yuan and Su Mu talked for a while, and then he asked the servant to bring tea. Wen Yuan didn't work very much these years, and when he was at home, he trained the servants to be obedient, so he couldn't tolerate Aunt Wang's tricks. If the old master liked her, then let him keep her. Chapter 49:53. The servant was very good at reading. He immediately brought over the tea that Mrs. Yi treasured. Su Mu took a sip. Wen Yuan remembered something and said softly, Yi Hui went out early in the morning. Otherwise, she would have something to talk to you about. Yi Hui was a freelancer and spent most of her time at home. Wen Yuan also hoped that Su Mu could be friends with her so that both of them could have company. For some reason, Su Mu just didn't like Wen Yuan. It was probably because her experience was similar to hers in the past, and Su Mu's crime was worse than hers in the past. Su Mu was asked to stay for dinner by Wen Yuan. After dinner, Yi Xiangnan had something to do and left. Su Mu left in the afternoon because Wen Yuan answered a phone call and looked a little strange. Su Mu felt that the Yi family had private matters to deal with, and it was not convenient for her to stay here as an outsider. So she said goodbye. Wen Yuan asked the driver to send her, but she refused and went out to take a taxi. When she was sitting in the taxi, she received a call from Yi Xiangnan. He seemed to be at a business meeting and remembered to make a call before leaving. There's an interview at 9 o'clock on Monday at Cymbidium Chinese. I'll pick you up then. He paused for a moment and said, tidy yourself up. He found a high-end nursery for Cymbidium Chinese. All children had to be interviewed when they went in. Even the Yi family, which had a prominent identity, had to go through the formalities. Su Mu remembered that when Yuan had told her just now, so she nodded. On the other side, Yi Xiangnan hung up the phone. He was indeed at a business meeting. It was a headache, because Bai Anan and Qin Xian had been caught. The location was at Qin Xian's residence, and they were caught by He Huan. It was said that the scene at that time was terrible. At this moment, Yi Xiangnan was in Qin Xian's villa. Qin Mo and He Huan were both there. He Huan didn't look guilty at all like the man's parents. Instead, she looked a little excited, which made people speechless. In addition, Yi Mulin and Bai Shuili were also there. Bai Shuili thought that Qin Xian was quite handsome, but Yi Mulin's face was not so good. As a father, he felt that his daughter was at a disadvantage. When Yuan and Yi Mubai had also arrived, there were so many elders sitting here, and almost all the people of the same generation had come. The male lead and the female lead were wearing black nightgowns. It was as if they were being interrogated. It was very stressful. Qin Xian supported his head with his hand and looked at Bai Anan. Even someone as thick-skinned as Bai Anan didn't dare to look at them. It was all because of the alcohol. In the end, Qin Xian said, let's get married. Bai Anan looked at him. Why are you getting married? Qin Xian sighed. You might get pregnant. Bai Anan's gaze was quite strange. She kept staring at him. Qin Xian smiled helplessly. Don't you remember? Stop. Bai Anan really didn't want him to recall the details in front of so many people. I'll take the medicine. I'll take care of it. Qin Xian said calmly. You're already in your 30s. It's probably difficult for you to get pregnant. I don't want to deprive you of this rare opportunity. Bai Anan was furious. She picked up a pillow and started to hit him. Qin Xian, you're too despicable. He actually dared to laugh softly. It was obvious that he didn't care about these elders. He was too shameless. Even if he was shameless, Bai Anan still had to be. Bai Anan felt that it was quite embarrassing. Wasn't it just lying together? Everyone knew about it. The only thing missing was the news. Both parents were interested. One was a young woman, and the other had a strange temper. Both of them wanted to sell out immediately. Now that they had something on them, how could they not seize the opportunity? Chapter 49:54. Bai Shuili and He Huan were already familiar with each other, so they were more than happy to see this happen. They had already gathered together to discuss the details of the wedding. Bai Anan looked at Qin Xian speechlessly. Qin Xian was also looking at her. Suddenly, Bai Anan found it difficult to look at him directly. Her face suddenly felt a little hot. All of a sudden, the female lead ran upstairs. Bai Anan was actually embarrassed. This was probably the first time. Qin Xian did not chase after her. With so many elders around, he still had some sense of propriety. He had grown up by Qin Mo and Huan's side. Among the three children, he was the most spoiled, so he was usually very picky and did not like any of the matchmaking matches. He did not like Bai Ainen that much, but he did not hate her when they were together. If they were to arrange things according to the rules, she was not his ideal type except for her looks. After discussing for the whole afternoon, they finally decided that Bai Ainen was not allowed to take the medicine. If she was pregnant, they would get married right away. If not, it was up to them. Bai Ainen felt that her reputation was more or less done for now that the matter had blown up to this point. After the elders left, she was still there, sitting on the sofa with her legs crossed. She did not even bother with work and just took out some snacks to watch TV. Qin Xian came over and glanced at her. "You look like you're very unwilling." Yesterday, they went to the banquet and partied together. They drank so much that they could not remember how they got here or what happened afterward. When they woke up in the night, they blacked out again. They did not expect that Yuan would come over early in the morning to show concern for Qin Xian. It was the second day of Shun Ting and Qin Yuan's wedding. Shouldn't she show concern for the newlyweds? Shun Ting felt that it was quite cruel. He brought the cold beer over and sat beside Bai Ainen. He took a sip and then looked at Bai Ainen. "Before I confirm whether or not I'm pregnant, are you going to stay here and not leave? Or must you get pregnant? Do you want to marry me so badly?" Bai Ainen's gaze never left the TV. She was still stuffing food into her mouth as she said, "If I go back, my mom will give me a test every day. At least not here." As she said that, she looked at the beer in his hand and kicked him. "Go make dinner and you're still drinking? Didn't you drink enough last night?" Qin Xian frowned. "I'm not your servant." Bai Ainen snorted softly and kicked him again. "I'm hungry." Qin Xian put down the beer in his hand and said as he got up, "Think about it carefully. You'll get pregnant if you stay here. I'll stay in the master bedroom. You can do as you please," she said somewhat domineeringly. Qin Xian walked to the kitchen. "Lawyer Bai, is this how you pursue men?" Bai Ainen didn't respond. Qin Xian turned his head away. She sat there eating snacks again, as if she didn't hear what he said. Qin Xian shook his head. Why do you think that she was angry or sad? Bai Ainen wouldn't be sad. It was as if she was made of iron and nothing could affect her. She had liked Brother Shinting for many years. But in the end, she was still very free and easy. When he opened the fridge, Qin Xian's fingers closed the fridge door with a loud bang. Bai Ainen turned her head to look, but didn't say anything. She continued to eat snacks and watch the TV. After a while, she picked up a beer and drank 2 mouthfuls. After drinking it, she realized that Qin Xian had drunk it before. I'll update a chapter tomorrow. Chapter 4955. Qin Xian made Bai Ainen's favorite hot pot in the kitchen. He didn't know why he made it for her. It was just a matter of time. What era was it now? However, both of them were quite pure, so Qin Xian didn't feel like he was taking advantage of her. He was also very pure, all right? Men and women were already equal. When the hot pot was ready, he brought it to the dining room. Bai Ainen brought the beer over and sat down opposite him. Qin Xian shook the bottle and frowned. You drank half a bottle. Bai Ainen ate the hot pot and said matter-of-factly, yeah, why? You won't get drunk if you drink some beer. Qin Xian's expression didn't look too good. He put down the chopsticks in his hand. What if you get pregnant? How can it be so fast? Even if you find out that you're pregnant, it'll be more than 10 days later. Oh, I forgot to tell you that yesterday wasn't a good day to get pregnant, Bai Ainen said naturally without any hint of annoyance. Qin Xian stared at her and then said coldly, I thought Lawyer Bai was just a legal machine. I didn't expect you to know biological knowledge. Bai Ainen frowned. Qin Xian, do you think you're at a disadvantage? If you think you're at a disadvantage, I'll take the medicine and we'll definitely not have a child. You definitely don't have to marry me. What do you think? He stared at her. Bai Ainen squeezed out a smile. It's decided. Qin Xian didn't say anything. Bai Ainen continued. This can be considered a farewell meal. She felt that it was quite boring. She could smell his strong disdain towards her. Bai Ainen was very well off. Although she didn't think that she was especially beautiful, she wouldn't throw herself at him. Moreover, he was younger than her, and he was Shun Ting's younger brother. In the future, She wouldn't be looked down upon, and she didn't want to be looked down upon. Baianen felt that she didn't care too much. After she finished eating, she walked upstairs. As she walked, she said, "I can't wear the dress from last night. Let me borrow a new one. I'll leave in a while." Qin Xian sat there and looked at the pot on the table. He remembered that Baianen loved to eat and could eat this very much. Last time, she had finished half of the pot by herself. But now, she barely touched it. "Are you in a bad mood or can't eat?" He cocked his head and watched her go upstairs. About 10 minutes later, Baianen came down. She was wearing a black shirt and black pants. It was unknown where she found them, but they actually fit her well. She rolled up the legs of the pants and tucked the shirt into her waist. It looked quite nice. Baianen took out a stack of cash from her handbag and threw it on the sofa. "Money for the meal." Qin Xian was a little insulted. "Is this the money for the meal?" Baianen snorted. "Then what are you counting on?" Qin Xian stopped talking and stared at her. It wasn't until Baianen walked to the door that he murmured, "I'll send you." "No need, I've called a taxi." Baianen's voice sounded as she walked out of the living room. Qin Xian stood up. He couldn't take it anymore. He didn't know why he was unhappy with her. In short, he was a little annoyed. He didn't know how to deal with such a relationship when he didn't really want her to be his wife. Baianen wasn't insensitive. She probably felt it. Qin Xian let out a long sigh and got up to change. Chapter 49-56. Read it for free. Baianen did call a taxi. She waited at the entrance of the villa for a while and got in a taxi. She didn't go straight back to her apartment. Instead, she stopped at a pharmacy in the city and went in to buy medicine. She didn't go straight back to her apartment. Instead, she stopped at a pharmacy in the city and went in to buy medicine. It was her first time, and she had no experience. She bought a box of all kinds of medicine and called Yuran. "Help me find out which morning after medicine is the most effective." Secretary Yu was stunned. After a long time, she stammered, "Lawyer Bai, who did you do that with?" Baianen didn't say anything and hung up the phone. She didn't even want to mention Qin Xian's name. He didn't want to. Why do you have to talk about having children and getting married? He didn't have any plans at all, or he didn't have any interest in her. Baianen naturally wouldn't get close to him. She stood under the hot sun for a while and felt her head was heavy. She even broke out in a cold sweat. Secretary called. She hesitated for a moment before saying, "Her name is Yiding. I heard she eats this." She guessed and asked, "Is it little President Qin?" "Don't tell anyone." Baianen snorted. She didn't know that it had been photographed by the paparazzi. Especially when she came out of Qin Xian's villa and bought a lot of morning after medicine. It quickly became a trending topic. It was quite exposed. At least, it overshadowed Shunting and Qin Yihuan's marriage. In addition, Baianen and Shunting's love history, Qin Yihuan and Yi Xiangnan and Su Mu were released together. It was a carnival atmosphere. Stars Entertainment and King Entertainment had to work together to suppress it, but those who were observant could still know that Baianen and young Master Qin had a romantic relationship. Baianen stopped a taxi. After getting in the car, she rummaged through the pile of medicine to find the one that Yuran had mentioned. After looking at it for a long time, she put it down. When she reached her apartment, she got out of the car and went back with a bag of medicine. Qin Xian's car also stopped, and the window slowly rolled down. He stared at Baianen and the bag in her hand. Was she so stupid? This was medicine. Did she buy so much to eat? Qin Xian thought about it and got out of the car. He quickly walked over and stopped her before she got into the elevator. Just as Baianen was about to enter, her hand was caught, and she turned around. Qin Xian stared at her and frowned. "Do you really want to take the medicine?" Baianen was speechless. "Did you come here to get your clothes back? Or did you take too much medicine? Isn't it good not to have children?" At that time, when he said that he had given birth to a child, she really did feel her heart skip a beat, but it turned out not to be. It turned out that young Master Qin could also be impulsive, and when a man was impulsive, his words usually didn't count. After Baianen finished speaking, Qin Xian asked in a low voice, "Why did you buy so much medicine? Can't I save it for next time?" Baianen snorted and walked into the elevator. Qin Xian followed him in. Baianen looked at him. "Little President Qin, don't worry. I'll take the medicine. I won't blame you. Qin Xian frowned. I told you you don't have to eat it. Bai Anan didn't say anything and only laughed softly. It was a little mocking. Qin Xian frowned even more and narrowed his eyes. You want to kill an innocent child just like that? Bai Anan couldn't help but say, Qin Xian, are you an idiot? Where did the child come from? Aren't you going to kill it now? He stared at her and held her shoulders. Bai Anan, I told you that you could give birth to it. Chapter 49:57. Aren't you going to kill it now? He stared at her and held her shoulders. Bai Anan, I told you that I can give birth to it. Bai Anan took 2 steps back and leaned against the wall of the elevator, looking at him quietly. After a while, she said softly, and then, Qin Xian, if we have a child and we get married, what about love? Have you never looked forward to it? Or are you willing to give up on your future happiness for a child that hasn't even existed yet? Qin Xian said straightforwardly, I'm a pragmatic person. I've never looked forward to love. Otherwise, he wouldn't have never felt anything for the past 28 years. Yihuan, Qin Mo, Shun Ting, and Yihuan were his family. If Bai Anan were to get pregnant, she and the child would be his family too. That was it. Bai Anan looked at him and smiled quietly. Qin Xian, I can't stand the fact that my future husband doesn't love me. She studied law and looked like an emotionless machine, but she felt that she was worthy of love. She didn't particularly yearn for it, but she didn't want to settle for it either. A Shin Ting who didn't love her was enough. She didn't need another Qin Xian. Bai Anan let out a long sigh. After saying that, she felt relieved. Qin Xian looked at her quietly and didn't say anything. He just punched the wall of the elevator when it stopped. Bai Anan walked out. Qin Xian was still in the elevator, and he looked at her calmly. Bai Anan, think carefully. His tone was a little heavy. Little young Master Qin had never spoken like this before. He had never treated anyone so seriously before. Bai Anan turned her head and smiled. No matter if I'm robbing you for money or for sex, I seem to be disappointed. If she wanted children and marriage, she could do it any time. There were a lot of people who wanted to marry Bai Anan. It was just a matter of whether she liked them or not. She didn't lack good-looking men, and she didn't lack money. After saying that, Bai Anan swiped her card and entered the elevator. The elevator door in front of Qin Xian closed. He stood inside and did not press the button for a long time. After a long time, he punched the wall of the elevator hard, went down, and sat in his car. As he smoked, he looked upstairs. It was true. He did not like Bai Anan's personality. She was emotionless and would not act coquettishly toward him. Of course, Qin Xian couldn't imagine how Bai Anan would act coquettishly, but at least she could be a little softer, and they could communicate more. He didn't want children, but he didn't want her to take medicine. As for why, he did not know either. In the apartment upstairs, Bai Anan returned home. She opened the box of medicine and took it. It was quite disgusting. She swallowed for a long time before eating it. It felt like she had eaten poison. She only felt better after drinking a large glass of water. She had never thought that the brand of medicine she was taking had a transparent price, and this pharmacy was a private one. The boss was a goblin, and he had actually bought fake medicine. It was not a morning after medicine at all, but an ordinary vitamin. Anyway, those who got pregnant because the medicine did not work would not dare to come here, and there was no evidence. Bai Anan only felt that after taking the medicine, she felt much more at ease. Elegant people were very meticulous. If she said that the brand was good, it must be good. She did not think of the possibility of taking fake medicine at all. After taking the medicine, she looked at the floor-to-ceiling window. Qin Xian's car was still there. He was probably sitting in the car and did not move for a long time. Bai Anan looked at him quietly and pursed her lips. Chapter 49:58. After that, they didn't seem to have anything to do with each other. Bai Anan was still her lawyer Bai, while Qin Xian continued to be his little President Qin. Coupled with Shan Ting's honeymoon, he had a lot of things to do, so he quickly forgot about this matter. On Monday, Yi Xiangnan took Cymbidium Chinense to an interview at a nursery, and Yi Xiangnan drove his son. Cymbidium Chinense sat in the back of the car, wearing a very beautiful little suit, like a gentleman. Yi Xiangnan was also dressed very formally, with sunglasses on his high-nose bridge. His hands were on the steering wheel, and he told his son some key things, such as interview techniques, and so on. Cymbidium Chinense listened obediently. When Yishangnan felt that it was enough, Cymbidium Chinense asked softly, "Dad, will I live with Grandma and the others in the future? What about Mom?" Yishangnan curled his lips and said, "You can live with your mom at any time when she's resting, but I don't think she has much time to rest in the next 2 years." "Why?" Cymbidium Chinense raised his little face and asked innocently and cutely. Yishangnan thought for a moment and then smiled slightly. "Because she wants to be a strong woman. If she wants to be strong, she has to put in a lot more effort than others, understand?" Cymbidium Chinense said, "Oh," and then asked again, "Did Dad also put in a lot of effort to become strong?" Yishangnan thought for a moment and then said yes. Cymbidium Chinense said, "Oh," and then didn't ask anymore, but just secretly stared at the back of his head. Naturally, Yishangnan saw it from the rearview mirror, but he just smiled and didn't expose the little guy. Half an hour later, the car stopped in front of Su Mu's shabby apartment. Yishangnan took out his phone and dialed Su Mu's number. "We're here. You can come down." After that, he hung up the phone. His slender fingers gently tapped on the steering wheel. Cymbidium Chinense asked a little anxiously, "Dad, are we not going home if we don't get off?" For Cymbidium Chinense, the place where Su Mu was his home. He actually wanted to go back and have a look. Although his grandparents ate well, slept well, and had a fragrant bed, and the aunties there treated him extremely well, he still wanted to be with his mother. However, his father said that his mother wanted to become stronger and needed a lot of time, so he would give his mother time. Yishangnan secretly glanced at his father. When his mother became stronger, he would be with his mother. Well, it's not that I'm ignoring my father. I'll just ignore him a little. Who asked him to have other aunties? Thinking of this, Yi-sun was quite disappointed. He hung his head low. Yishangnan turned his head and looked at him. "What's wrong again?" Cymbidium Chinense's little face was a little tense. "Nothing. Cymbidium Chinense, you've grown up. Especially for boys, you should learn to restrain yourself. Don't show all your emotions on your face, understand?" Yishangnan comforted his son and then asked softly, "Tell me, what were you thinking about just now? Why are you in such a bad mood?" As he said that, he turned his head and touched Cymbidium Chinense's little face. Cymbidium Chinense said quite seriously, "Dad, you said that I shouldn't show my emotions. I'd better bear with it silently." "You can tell me in front of Dad," Chin Imo said in a low voice. Cymbidium Chinense replied with an, "Oh," and then said quite seriously, "Then I'll really tell you?" Yishangnan nodded. Cymbidium Chinense said stubbornly, "When I become stronger in the future, I won't have other aunties, only my wife." Chapter 49-59. Cymbidium Chinense said dryly, "When I become stronger in the future, I won't have any other aunties, only my wife." Yishangnan cursed in his heart. If he had known this was the answer, he wouldn't have asked this kid this question. At such a young age, he already knew how to play tricks. Yishangnan was speechless. He stared at his son for a long time before he said, "Not bad. You'd better remember this sentence. Don't wait until you grow up to slap yourself in the face." "I won't." Cymbidium Chinense bit his lip and said softly, "I won't." Yishangnan didn't know what to say. He reached out and touched his head. There was a hint of hurt in Cymbidium Chinense's big eyes. This hurt might be something that Yishangnan could never make up for in his life. Thinking of this, his heart sank. Fortunately, Su Mu came over. She tidied up. She wore a white t-shirt, jeans, and a beige cardigan. She was clean and tidy. But in a family like the Yi family, it was very ordinary. Yishangnan wanted to say something, but Cymbidium Chinense was here. If he said it, Cymbidium Chinense would say that he disliked his mother. Sigh. The little guy was hard to serve. Yishangnan looked at Su Mu sitting in the back seat and pointed with his chin. "There's an interview guide over there. Take a look. It's best to follow it. That nursery is very strict." Su Mu nodded. She reached out and touched Cymbidium Chinense's little head. Then, she began to read the information. Secretary Li was well prepared. All the details were written in it. After reading it, Sumu had a feeling that it was very difficult to be Yi Xiangnan's secretary. She really had to be all-round. When the car arrived at the nursery, Sumu had just finished reading. She put down the information. Yi Xiangnan parked the car and tilted his head. Everything clear? Secretary Li said that the director of this nursery focuses on a warm family atmosphere. In a while, please cooperate. Sumu wasn't an idiot. She knew what he meant. She nodded. I will cooperate if necessary. What he meant was, don't go overboard. Yi Xiangnan smiled and opened the car door. He walked to the back and opened the Cymbidium Chinense door. He hugged the little guy and said, all right, young man. Behave well later. Cymbidium Chinense's face was red. It was rare for him to be treated like this. He looked at the beautiful nursery in front of him. It was like something out of a cartoon. His eyes were filled with yearning. Sumu followed them into the nursery. The principal personally interviewed the candidates, and there were also 2 teachers in their 40s who looked very amiable and reliable. The principal was in his early 50s. He was kind and interviewed them very politely. Because of the materials prepared by Secretary Li, they answered fluently. Cymbidium Chinense's performance was surprisingly good. Although he only went to school for a month or 2, he really knew a lot compared with children of the same age. The principal was probably very satisfied and kept nodding. Sumu and Yi Xiangnan looked at each other. At this time, no matter how estranged and bad their relationship was, they were both parents of Cymbidium Chinense. They both had a sense of pride as old parents. When they were feeling proud, the principal over there said kindly, our Cymbidium Chinense children are excellent. They passed the interview completely, and the family atmosphere is very good. Now we will go through the admission procedures. Mr. Yi, the tuition fee is paid annually. It's 128,000 yuan a year. In addition, bring the relevant certificates of the children and the marriage certificate of Mr. and Mrs. Yi to us. These are the basic procedures of enrollment. The principal was also very gentle. Chapter 4960. However, after she says that, Cymbidium Chinense can't keep a straight face. But thinking of his father's words, he tries his best to control his facial expression. Such a poor little boy knows how to control his facial expression. It's really distressing. Yi Xiangnan raises his eyebrows. Do we need this for admission? Damn it. Why didn't Secretary Li tell him? Sumu is also very strange, but she can't say anything in front of Cymbidium Chinense. She is afraid that the little boy will be more sad. The principal is a little confused. Mr. Yi, every high-end nursery will ask for it. Yi Xiangnan repeats again. Do we need a marriage certificate? Well, divorce certificate is also fine. Seeing their expressions, the principal is relieved. But it's very strange that Mr. and Mrs. Yi are so loving just now. They hold each other's shoulder and shake hands without hesitation. They are also very patient to the child. How could such a family not have a marriage certificate? If they take out the divorce certificate, it proves that they're too good at acting. Yi Xiangnan's face is a little dark, but he holds back. We didn't bring it today. We will come in the afternoon. The principal smiles appropriately. Okay, before 5 o'clock is fine. Yi Xiangnan then leaves with the adult and the child. When sitting in the car, he calls Secretary Li and asks why she doesn't tell him such an important thing. Secretary Li is quite innocent. Mr. Yi, I thought you could persuade the principal. How can I persuade him? He said he must. Yi Xiangnan lets out a long breath. Inform Lawyer Chun. How soon can I get the marriage certificate? I want it before 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Secretary Li's brain is a little blank. After a long time, she asks in a low voice, Mr. Yi, who are you going to marry? Besides Sumu, who else? Lawyer Chun? Yi Xiangnan's tone wasn't very pleasant. If the director found out about his violent side, he probably wouldn't dare to accept Cymbidium Chinense anymore. Secretary Li swallowed his saliva. CEO Yi, I can make an appointment with Lawyer Chun, but you have to talk to Miss Su first. Otherwise, I'm afraid you will be embarrassed. Yi Xiangnan hung up the phone. In fact, the 2 in the back seat had heard the conversation just now. Cymbidium Chinense did not reply. Sumu said directly, I don't want to get married. Then my son can't go to the best school and receive the best education. Yi Xiaonan's voice was indifferent. Su Mu frowned. It doesn't have to be here. Weren't there other options? Yi Xiaonan's voice was cold. Didn't you hear what the principal said? All the high-end nurseries want this. What are you afraid of? It's just a certificate. It's not like you're selling your entire body for a deed. Su Mu was a little hesitant. After all, she really didn't want to have anything to do with Yi Xiaonan. She pursed her lips and then looked at Cymbidium chinense. Cymbidium chinense looked at her eagerly. She sighed. Cymbidium chinense, do you like this nursery very much? Cymbidium chinense whispered. Mom, can I tell you the truth? Of course. Su Mu felt sorry for him. Cymbidium chinense said excitedly. Mom, the house here is so beautiful, and the teachers here are very nice. They're very gentle, just like Mom. Finally, he said with some embarrassment, of course, they're not as good as Mom. Yi Xiaonan looked at Su Mu. Su Mu looked down. If you can get it today, go and get it. Mr. Yi, when did you find a girlfriend? I don't have any problem here. Oh, she really dared to say it. Chapter 49-61. Yi Xiaonan sneered. I have no problem with that. Then, he called Lawyer Chen directly. Lawyer Chen was quite surprised. Didn't they just cancel the engagement, and now they're getting married again? That was fast. It wasn't good for young people to be so half-hearted. Lawyer Chen hung up and glanced at his beloved disciple. Shen Xuan was leaving Stars Entertainment at the end of the month and was in the handover stage. He looked at Lawyer Chen and asked softly, What's the matter? Lawyer Chen sighed. Wen Xuan, do you want to reconsider? If you haven't changed your mind after I tell you the news, I won't stop you. Shen Xuan's expression changed. He had guessed it. Lawyer Chen patted his shoulder and smiled comfortingly. CEO Yi's going to get married to Miss Su. Yes, the Miss Su you're thinking about, Su Mu. Shen Xuan clenched his fists and walked to the window, looking outside. After a long time, he suppressed his voice. Why are they getting married all of a sudden? Lawyer Chen was helpless. Young people change their minds quickly. It must be because of the Cymbidium chinense. Such a cute kid probably doesn't want his child to be wronged. Shen Xuan's slender fingers touched the blinds, and he murmured, Yes, he won't be wronged. Lawyer Chen walked over and patted his shoulder again. I still have something to do. I have to talk to CEO and Madam about it. It's not a small matter. After all, it concerns the future of Stars Entertainment. Wen Xuan, you have to think about it. Don't be impulsive. Shen Xuan turned around and forced a smile. I know. Lawyer Chen had something important to do, so he left quickly. He asked someone from the Civil Affairs Bureau to handle it, and informed Yi Mubai and Wen Yuan about the situation. The Yi family was surprised too. Wen Yuan hung up and asked if he wanted to go. Yi Mubai put down the newspaper and frowned. Your son is cheating. Why are you going there? Wen Yuan was stunned for a moment. What do you mean by marriage fraud? Yi Mubai, explain it clearly. Yi Mubai looked at his wife as if he was looking at an idiot. He folded the newspaper and said slowly, You still can't tell? It's just a nursery. It's so difficult to enter the nursery. You want a marriage certificate? Believe it or not, your son can't think of a way to pick the moon. Now he's stumped by a marriage certificate. I think he's just not convinced. He's just not convinced that he can't handle Su Mu. He's even more afraid that his child's mother will run off to marry someone else. He's using a certificate to tie her down. This is just the first step. There's more to come. Wen Yuan simply couldn't believe it. After a while, he said, Is Xiaonan that bad? It'll only be worse than I thought. Men understand men the best. Besides, I'm his old man, so I know exactly how many guts he has. Only you women will be fooled by this little trick. Yi Xiannan snorted softly. Wen Yuan was still in shock. He still couldn't believe that his son was so unscrupulous. She asked, Then why didn't he use this trick on Yihuan? Probably because he knows that Yihuan's heart is with Shinting. Don't be fooled by his cold appearance. Most of it is to help Shinting and Yihuan be together. It's also because of a man's pride. Yi Mubai smiled. Su Mu is different. Even if she likes someone else, she has been owned by Xiangnan. How can he let others touch his things? Chapter 49-62. Memorize after Yi Mubai finished speaking. When Yuan looked at him strangely. Yi Mubai, Why are you looking at me, madam? Wen Yuan narrowed his eyes. Did you have the same thoughts when you married me? I remember that you liked Lin Cece. She liked Gu Zhe, so you settle for the next best thing. Shadow Emperor Yi was speechless. Then why did I settle for you instead of someone else? Because I have children. Wen Yuan quickly said, others didn't, but I was in the same situation as Su Mu. Yi Mubai was speechless. After a long while, he let out a long sigh. So the men of the Yi clan are all scum in your heart. Wen Yuan, do you dare to say that you haven't been happy all these years? Wen Yuan grinned. Yi Mulin isn't a scumbag, and my adorable grandson definitely isn't a scumbag either. That kid takes after Su Mu. You can tell a glance. Yi Mubai snorted. Thinking about your ex-husband, right? Are you saying that Xiangnan's scum is like me? He looked like he was going to punish her, but Wen Yuan stopped him. Okay, it's just a joke. You're already grandparents. Yi Mubai, on the other hand, was genuinely moved. He hugged his wife and said, rather sentimentally, yes, when we become grandparents, I'll be yours in the future. Wen Yuan was speechless. He was already so old, but he still didn't find it disgusting. Yi Mubai was very dissatisfied because she didn't respond to him. Say you'll be mine in the future. Wen Yuan rolled his eyes and patted him. You should keep in touch with Lawyer Chen. At least show some concern for our son. Even though he's a bit of a scumbag, he's still our son. Yi Mubai looked at his wife and was speechless. Was there such a mother? Yes. Wen Yuan was one such person. Asterisk Starlight Headquarters. Legal team. Shen Wenxuan had been standing by the floor-to-ceiling window, so he could clearly see Yi Xiangnan's car driving in. Because he was the only Bentley in the company, many executives could not afford it, but they did not want to collide with CEO Ye's car. He watched quietly as he got out of the car, and then Su Mu and Cymbidium Chinans got out from the back. The three of them walked together in harmony. Su Mu wanted to get a certificate with Yi Xiangnan instead of getting married. He could also think of the reason, and he also knew that it might be Yi Xiangnan's intention. Such a strong man must do whatever he wants to do, and whatever he wants to get, he must get. And Shen Wenxuan was powerless to stop it. It was not about power, but about standpoint. Su Mu and that person had a child, but he only had a memory and Su Mu's vague, unforgettable impression of him. In contrast, this intangible thing seemed especially pale in comparison. Self-awareness was a good thing, and Shen Wenxuan had it. No matter how bitter it was, he could only watch from here, powerless to stop everything. He watched quietly until he couldn't see them anymore. He knew that in a few hours, they would become legally married. In the lobby of the Starlight Building, the receptionist looked at this scene with a smile. The news had already spread, saying that CEO Yi was getting married and was about to get their certificate, the kind that couldn't wait for a moment. How impatient! At first, she didn't know who it was, but upon a closer look, it was Miss Su. That Lin Lu thought that she was very beautiful and especially good at doing things, but what was the use of that? The receptionist looked at Su Mu with envy. Indeed, a child was a king. Chapter 4963. Su Mu didn't feel anything. In her mind, it was just a matter of getting a certificate. Nothing else would change. She still lived there, and Wen Yuan was still taking care of Cymbidium Chinets. As for Yi Xiangnan's private life, he could do whatever he wanted. She was still thinking about changing the certificate to green. After all, it wasn't good for two unrelated people to have a certificate. She didn't want to be associated with Yi Xiangnan, and she didn't like people who didn't know her calling her Mrs. Yi. Of course, Su Mu didn't think of Shen Wenxuan. She had experienced too much. Even if she still had a good impression of Shen Wenxuan, it couldn't beat the reality. The most important person to her at this time was Cymbidium Chinets. She thought that she didn't need to report to anyone to explain, so she didn't want to tell him. She didn't expect that Shen Wenxuan already knew. Su Mu got into the elevator. There were only 3 of them in the elevator, and Secretary Li came down to welcome them. Secretary Li's face was full of happiness. After all, she had completed all the tasks assigned by CEO Yi. Moreover, she heard from the finance department that her bonus this month was really generous. It was a 6-figure bonus. Just thinking about it made her feel especially good. The elevator stopped at the 18th floor. The door opened, and Lawyer Chun was standing outside. And Shun Wenxuan. Shun Wenxuan looked at Su Mu, and so did Su Mu. Their eyes met. It was actually quite calm, but in the eyes of the other two adults, it was full of adultery. Su Mu pursed her lips and nodded to Lawyer Chun. Lawyer Chun also felt that this pair of children was quite cruel. He didn't know what method Xiangnan had used to break them up. Well, now it was time for the visa. CEO Yuan. He was really resourceful. He turned his head and said, Wen Xuan, deal with what happened just now. We'll discuss it later when I come back. Shun Wenxuan nodded calmly and took a step back. From the beginning to the end, his eyes were on Su Mu's face. Lawyer Chen thought to himself, this is really cruel. Yi Xiangnan, on the other hand, was expressionless. Cymbidium Chinans called him Uncle Shun. At such a young age, he had already learned to observe. He felt that Uncle Shun was very unhappy, like a lovelorn on TV. He liked Uncle Shun very much, but he didn't know why he had become like this. In any case, the elevator door closed. There was one more person in the elevator. Yi Xiangnan and Lawyer Chun were discussing the signing of the contract. It was quite simple. When they arrived at the top floor, Secretary Li said, Boss Yi, Miss Su, the staff is already waiting in the small conference room. This way, please. They went in together, and Cymbidium Chinans was taken away by Secretary Li. In this kind of situation, it seemed a little inappropriate for a young child to be there. He couldn't escape the feeling of getting on the bus first and then paying the ticket later. After entering and exchanging a few pleasantries, the staff took out 2 blank pieces of paper for them to sign and even took a photo. Today's clothes were all suitable. When they were taking photos, the staff kept asking them to stand closer. Later, he also said that Su Mu didn't manage her expression well. Su Mu was also quite helpless. It only took her a few seconds to sign, but it took her half an hour to finish the photos. She didn't know why Yi Xiangnan was so picky. Anyway, it was not true. Seeing that she was impatient, Yi Xiangnan squinted at her and said, This is the first time I get married. It's just a certificate. Su Mu couldn't help reminding him. The staff smiled and said, Mrs. Yi, this is legally binding. Chapter 4964. Su Mu glanced at the staff member, and the staff member smiled. Su Mu pursed her lips. I know it's legally binding. Otherwise, couldn't she just buy one from a scalper on the street? Thinking of this, she looked at Yi Xiangnan and coughed. Why don't we buy one? Yi Xiangnan frowned. You mean fake certificate? Su Mu nodded. Fake certificate. Yi Xiangnan was speechless. He looked at the staff member who was trying to hold back his laughter. You're saying this in front of them? And if word gets out, where will I put my face? The dignified CEO of Stars Entertainment couldn't even get a marriage certificate, let alone fake one. He glanced at Su Mu. Su Mu didn't say anything. It was the last time they took a photo together. The staff member took the photo and showed it to them. He smiled. Although the smile is a little fake, at least it's a smile. Yi Xiangnan looked at Su Mu. Su Mu pursed her lips and didn't say anything. In the photo, it was as the staff member said, the smile was a little fake. But no matter what, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the 2 newly made marriage certificates came out. They were steaming hot, and there was a faint smell of ink. The staff member sent them over personally. When he handed them over, he gave them quite a sincere blessing. Su Mu felt a little depressed. Yi Xiangnan asked Secretary Li to wrap 2 big red packets for the staff member to shut his mouth. In addition, he also sent wedding candies internally. All of Stars Entertainment knew that CEO Yi had gotten his certificate, but Su Mu didn't know. She thought that everything was still the same as before. In the afternoon, she and Yi Xianan went to the nursery again, and the head of the nursery received them warmly. Yi Xiangnan took out the marriage certificate proudly. From now on, he was also a person with a certificate. The director smiled and accepted the tuition fee. Then he looked at Cymbidium Chinans. Cymbidium Chinans, do you want to experience it today, or do you want to go to class tomorrow? Yi Xiangnan touched his son's head. You decide. Cymbidium Chinans looked at him eagerly. It was obvious, but Yi Xiangnan found that his son was a little He didn't know where he got his personality from. He patted his son and smiled. Go, your mom and I will pick you up after school. We will take you to have a children's meal tonight to celebrate. Cymbidium Chinense was still young. To celebrate you and Mom getting your certificate today. The director and the teacher looked at each other. They thought to themselves that CEO Yi had really done a lot for the child. Cymbidium Chinense didn't know about this. He was happily held by the teacher and went to class. Yi Xiangnan and Su Mu watched their son leave. After a while, they exchanged some pleasantries with the director. Then, they went out with Su Mu to find a coffee shop. Su Mu thought that they were just waiting for Cymbidium Chinense to finish class. She didn't expect that Yi Xiangnan would go to the car and take out a laptop. He was drinking coffee while looking at the plan. He was quite focused. He wasn't just playing games. Su Mu was a little bored. She took out her phone and played. It was rare for her to be so free. After a while, Yi Xiangnan looked at her and realized that she was playing Gamoku. He said with some disdain, "This is for old people." Su Mu, you're playing this? Su Mu bit her lower lip. Is there something wrong with that? Or are there rules? There are no rules. But you're behind the times. Yi Xiangnan said and took her phone. He lowered his head and opened an app. Stars has just developed a new game. I'll help you download it. I'll get someone to give you the best equipment. Chapter 4965. He made a call as he downloaded it. Su Mu said softly, I don't know how to play. I'll teach you. After he finished the call, the phone was also downloaded. Then, CEO Yi was dissatisfied. This phone is too old. How can I play games? Get a new one. Su Mu let out an ah. He dialed another number. In less than 10 minutes, a staff of the store came over and took several latest mobile phones. Mr. Yi, these are the latest models, and the configurations are all the best. Mrs. Yi, you can see which one you like. Before Su Mu could say anything, Yi Xiangnan said, stay here. Go to Stars Entertainment and get the check from my secretary. The employee thanked him and left. Su Mu looked at the boxes on the table, speechless. She didn't like it. It was convenient, and she could get whatever she wanted. But she didn't deserve it. Yi Xianan lowered her gaze and looked at the cell phones. She smiled faintly. Which one do you like? Su Mu bit her lip. I don't want it. Yi Xianan looked at the cell phones on the table, picked up a box, and opened it. Then, she removed her card and put it inside. He opened it and downloaded some necessary software for her. Then, he started the game. It was so fun to be an R&B player. Su Mu felt good watching from his side. Yi Xiangnan seemed to have forgotten that he still had a lot of work to do. Su Mu reminded him softly. Aren't you working? Yi Xiangnan glanced at her and said calmly, About that, we'll talk about it tomorrow. With that, he continued to play. Su Mu was speechless. Did he download the game for her, or did he want to play it himself? Because he was an R&B player, he actually cleared the game after 2 hours. Yi Xiangnan tossed the phone back to her and said somewhat disinterestedly, It's too simple. Su Mu was even more speechless. She took the phone and wanted to exchange the card back. She didn't want to accept anything from him, but Yi Xiangnan threw her old phone into the trash can. Su Mu, well, this is your compensation, and these are interest, he said, pushing 2 more boxes to her, keeping the elegant black one for himself. Su Mu found it rather strange. Yi Xiangnan raised his hand and looked at his watch. Cymbidium Chinense class is over. Let's pick him up. Su Mu followed him and walked to the entrance of the nursery. The children came out in groups. They were very neat, and their little faces were very cute. Perhaps it was because their genes were better, but it actually felt like they were all the same. Yi Xiangnan and Su Mu stood side by side, waiting for Cymbidium Chinense to come out. This feeling was quite strange, and neither of them had experienced it before. Cymbidium Chinense class was the last to come out. Cymbidium Chinense was especially happy the moment he came out, and he jumped up and down. Daddy, Mommy. The two of them were waiting, but he still chose to jump into his mother's arms. Yi Xiangnan looked at him for a long time and dragged him out. All right, you're a big boy now. You can't stick to Mommy all day long. Cymbidium Chinense said a little squeamishly, I just stuck to you for a while. Yi Xiangnan glared at him. Cymbidium Chinense was a little unhappy. Su Mu glanced at Yi Xiangnan, and then carried Cymbidium Chinense up. She comforted her son gently. After a while, Cymbidium Chinense came down obediently. His little face was red as he held Su Mu's hand with one hand and held Yi Xiangnan's hand with the other. Yi Xiangnan was a little speechless. Why is this kid so obedient to you? He doesn't listen to me and even talks back to me. Chapter 4966. Memorize, because you don't have any prestige and you don't set an example. Su Mu snorted. By this time, they had already reached the car. Yi Xiangnan opened the door and said, "How am I not respected? Everyone in Stars Entertainment is afraid of me." "That doesn't count." Su Mu looked down. "I'm not really convinced." Yi Xiangnan sat in the car and adjusted his seatbelt. His eyes landed on the rearview mirror, and he said calmly, "How do you know that I don't really believe you?" "Su Mu, in your heart, I just accidentally hugged you twice, and that's it." He didn't care that his son was in the car and coughed lightly. "If I didn't hug you, then I wouldn't be human." Su Mu was so embarrassed that she wished she could get out of the car. As for Cymbidium Chinense, it was still young, so it only understood half of it. Yi Xiangnan started the car. Originally, Su Mu thought that he would go to a cheap restaurant. After all, it was a place for children's meals, and it wouldn't be very luxurious. However, he actually chose a top-notch French restaurant. To be honest, Su Mu had never been to such a place, and she didn't really like such a place. Yi Xiangnan stopped the car and let her and Cymbidium Chinense go in first. Su Mu was stopped at the door because she was dressed plainly, and this restaurant was particular about evening gowns. The doorman said in a very reserved tone, "I'm sorry, madam. We are a membership here." The so-called membership system was to deposit a certain amount of money in advance before being able to enter the restaurant to eat. The minimum deposit for this restaurant was 1 million, and for a VIP, it would start at 5 million. For a customer of Yi Xiangnan's level, it would normally start at 10 million. It was normal for a meal here to cost tens of thousands. If a high-class banquet was held, it would also be normal for a meal to cost more than 1 million. It was impossible for ordinary people to eat here. Su Mu was stunned. Cymbidium Chinense reminded her softly, "Mom, say Dad's name." Su Mu nodded. "I was invited by Mr. Yi Xiangnan. He's parking his car." "Yi Xiangnan?" The doorman's expression changed slightly as he looked at Su Mu and Cymbidium Chinense. The child was dressed very well, but the lady was very ordinary. The doorman obviously didn't believe it. He thought for a while, "Let's invite Mr. Yi to come here and then go in together." Su Mu was embarrassed. At this time, a few more guests came and went. One of them was an old acquaintance, Lin Lu. Lin Lu had probably just returned from abroad and had come to Starlight's headquarters to report on her work. She had arranged to have a meal here with her friends, but she didn't expect to meet Su Mu. Moreover, it was such a high-end French restaurant. Other than Yi Xiangnan bringing her here, there was no other possibility. A touch of evil flashed through Lin Lu's eyes. She directly ignored Su Mu and said the name of Yi Xiangnan. The doorman looked at Su Mu and then at Lin Lu. Because Lin Lu and Mr. Yi had been here, he let Lin Lu in. All of this happened in front of Su Mu and Cymbidium Chinense. Cymbidium Chinense was hurt. Su Mu squatted down and said softly, "Let's not eat here, okay?" Cymbidium Chinense agreed. It was in a good mood, but now it was very depressed. It remembered the things it had forgotten before. At this time, Yi Xiangnan came over and looked at them. "Why didn't he go in?" The doorman knew that he had made a mistake when he saw her. This turned out to be the real Mrs. Yi. It was said that she had given birth to a child for Mr. Yi. The manager also came over. Seeing this scene, he asked what was going on. Chapter 4967. The manager also came over. Seeing this scene, he asked what was going on. Because the membership card could only be used once, it was impossible to open 2 tables at the same time, so the doorman told him the truth. Yi Xiangnan frowned. He knew that Lin Lu had returned to China these 2 days, but he didn't expect that she would come here again. He had brought her here for dinner once, but she didn't have a card. She used his name to pay directly, which seemed too intimate. He had never been intimate with any woman to this extent, so he was unhappy. Su Mu wanted to change a place to eat, so he said directly, Put Manager Lin's meal on Stars Entertainment's bill, and let Manager Lin pay the bill himself. As for my membership card, don't give it to irrelevant people, except for my wife." He turned his body and gestured to Sumu. The manager was especially angry. Was this doorman blind? Such a child looked exactly like CEO Yi. That Lin Lu was just a department manager, one of CEO Ye's women. How could he let her in? The manager smiled and welcomed them in. Sumu was extremely unwilling at first, and she didn't want to show any sense of superiority in front of Lin Lu. After entering, the arranged seats were also close to each other. It was really fucking dog. Sumu sat down and didn't say anything. Cymbidium Chinan's face was even tighter. After ordering, Yi Xiangnan insisted on the aperitif and smiled. "It's not a big deal. Didn't I make my position clear? Why are you angry?" "I'm not angry, and I have no right to be angry," Sumu said lightly. "We don't need such occasions in the future. As Mrs. Yi, you have to adapt to such occasions." Yi Xiangnan said lightly, "Well, stop it. The whole restaurant is looking at us." Sumu didn't say anything, neither did Cymbidium Chinets. They just looked very unhappy. Lin Lu was sitting on the opposite seat. At this time, the manager personally went over to explain that her expenses could not be charged to CEO Ye's membership card. The bill would be sent to Stars Entertainment, and she would have to pay for it herself. Lin Lu came over with her friends. She was treating them. This meal cost at least 100,000 yuan. Heartache was a small matter, but it was very embarrassing. Lin Lu didn't know that after she separated from Yi Xiangnan, she couldn't eat a single French meal. However, she knew in her heart that she couldn't lose her temper on such an occasion. She didn't dare to show any displeasure to Yi Xiangnan, so she raised her glass and gave a toast to Yi Xiangnan. She knew that the fact that she was able to sit here without being asked to apply for a membership was already due to Yi Xiangnan. Yi Xiangnan didn't pay much attention to her, just nodded. He turned around and said to Sumu, "You see, Lin Lu is quite decent. In the future, don't make a fuss over such a small matter." "No." Sumu pursed her lips. "I'm not related to Mr. Yi." He laughed. "I think we're on the same marriage certificate." After saying that, Yi Xiangnan stared at Sumu. Suddenly, Sumu felt that something was wrong. They just got a certificate, but the phone call in the afternoon, playing games, and now the French meal. When she was thinking, Yi Xiangnan had said again, "I was a little cold to you before, so we were very good together in the afternoon. We need to get used to each other. We can't say that we will be very happy in the future, but it should not be difficult to be ordinary." In his opinion, Sumu should be satisfied with his little love. After all, he was also very clear about how many women longed for and yearned for him. In normal times, a woman like Sumu couldn't enter his eyes at all, let alone lie with him. She should be satisfied. Chapter 4968. Memorized, but now, Sumu was obviously not giving him face. His coaxing didn't work at all. Yi Xiangnan didn't look too good, but he didn't do anything because he was in a high-class restaurant and Cymbidium Chinese was beside him. It was just that they weren't very happy. The French dishes were served very quickly. Although the Cymbidium Chinese was small, it seemed to have some kind of innate gene flowing in its blood. When it ate, it actually looked good, and it learned quickly. Fortunately, Sumu had taken this etiquette class in college, so she didn't embarrass herself too much. However, she barely passed. On the other hand, Lin Lu, who had lost face, was even more graceful and charming at this moment. Yi Xiangnan didn't pay much attention to her. After all, he had seen many women like Lin Lu. He didn't really care about them, especially if they weren't stunning. Such women have a common problem. That is, they feel that they are very special and want to occupy a place in the heart of man. In fact, they are really very ordinary. Lin Lu was a little disappointed. She thought that in front of the ordinary Sumu, CEO Yi could see her good side. But CEO Yi didn't mean it at all. Of course, Yi Xiangnan didn't mean that. A powerful man like him could get any woman he wanted. Lin Lu was also used by him to relieve his boredom when he was in a bad mood. Now that he was so unhappy with Sumu, he naturally didn't have the mood to relieve his boredom. Between the child's mother and another woman, he still had to weigh the pros and cons. At the very least, He would not embarrass Su Mu in front of her. After the meal, he actually didn't take Lin Lu seriously. When he left, he signed the bill and left with Cymbidium Chinense and Su Mu. He didn't even look at Lin Lu. Lin Lu pursed her lips, and there was a hint of jealousy in her eyes. The woman in front of her is her best friend. Knowing that she is in a bad mood, she comforts. Su Mu is so ordinary. How can CEO Yi spend the rest of his life with such an ordinary woman? Don't worry. Lin Lu uses the fork to pick up the food on the plate, and her voice is indifferent. What if I am one of the many women around him? The woman widened her eyes. You're not thinking of becoming Mrs. Yi, are you? Lin Lu, I won't advise you against other things, but don't even think about it. Look at how old that child is. I can see how much CEO Yi dotes on him. He even married such an ordinary wife for the sake of this child. Lin Lu, as a bystander, I can see it clearly. CEO, you might be playing outside, but it's unlikely that he will divorce and remarry. Have you seen anyone in the Yi family changing wives? Lin Lu is unwilling, and she lets out a long sigh. Listen to me. Don't take things too hard. With your qualifications, you can't find any man. Why bother being entangled with a married man? The woman tried to persuade her again. Lin Lu's voice was very soft. If he marries Qin Huan, I won't have any feelings. Lin voice and up. If he marries Yi Qin, Yi Huan Mu I Qin, why? Lin Lu is unwilling, and she is not convinced. She is much better than Su Mu in terms of appearance, knowledge, and other aspects. Why can he marry Su Mu, but not me? That woman lets out a long sigh. Can't you see? Su Mu is an exception, and no one can replicate this exception. Lin Lu doesn't say anything. She lost because she didn't have a child. Su Mu, on the other hand, got pregnant without a word and gave birth without a word. This woman's shrewdness was truly deep. Chapter 4969. Memorize. Lin Lu gritted her teeth in hatred. On the other side, Su Mu's mood wasn't very good either. After all, after that incident, she couldn't look Lin Lu in the eye. Even if she didn't have any feelings for Yi Xiangnan, she didn't want to see his other women. After getting into the car, Su Mu didn't say anything. Since she didn't say anything, Yi Xiangnan drove the car directly to his villa. He even specially called Wen Yuan and told him that Cymbidium Chinense was staying at his place today. After he hung up, Su Mu woke up and looked at him. Yi Xiangnan smiled. I asked you if you'd like to sleep here, and you said yes. Su Mu patted the window. I want to go back. Yi Xiangnan's voice was a little lazy. Are you going to quarrel with me in front of Cymbidium Chinense? Hearing his words, Su Mu became more rational. She sat in the car and looked at the building in front of her. To her, this place did not have any good memories. Instead, she left in a sorry state. Su Mu lowered her eyes. I'll stay in the Cymbidium Chinense for one night, but I still have to go back. Mr. Yi, we've agreed that we'll just get the marriage certificate and nothing else will change. Yi Xiangnan placed both hands on the steering wheel and looked at the Cymbidium Chinense in the back. He raised his chin and said, Cymbidium Chinense, you go in and look for Granny Chan first. Cymbidium Chinense responded with an oh, but it did not move and continued to look at them. He looked worried. After all, it was his parents' quarrel. It was impossible for him to be indifferent. Previously, he was very angry with his father, but after all, he was still a child. As long as the adults treated him a little better, his heart would immediately soften. This was what cute baby was like. He didn't move. Yi Xiangnan looked at him and said quite seriously, I won't bully your mother. Cymbidium Chinense was a little worried. Dad, you promise? Yi Xiangnan nodded. Okay, I promise. Cymbidium Chinense was relieved and got out of the car. Su Mu did not move. After closing the car door, Yi Xiangnan made sure that the Cymbidium Chinense had entered the hall. He locked the car door from the inside. This was an old trick of his. Su Mu didn't believe that he would dare to do anything to her in front of her house. She wasn't in a hurry and just looked at him calmly. Looks like you're not afraid of me at all. Yi Xiangnan rubbed his chin and smiled meaningfully. I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. He did not like women to have a temper, but it seemed that there was no point in blindly pleasing him. Su Mu's behavior was quite interesting. She ignored him and refused to give in to him. In the past, he thought she was putting on an act, but after what happened with Shun Wenxuan, he realized that she really had no feelings for him. She didn't take him seriously at all. On the contrary, she liked Shun Wenxuan, who was not very good. Of course, he had to admit that Shun Wenxuan was excellent, but so what? Compared with him, Yi Xiangnan, he was destined to be ordinary. In a place like B City, a little money didn't make one rich. The Yi family and the Wen family had deep roots and were the ones that socialites desperately wanted to marry into. Of course, there was also the Qin family and the Tang family. In recent years, most of the Tang family's business was abroad, and the domestic market was almost monopolized by the Qin family. Of course, there was no need to mention Shinting. If he married Qin Yihuan, Qin Xian would become a bachelor, but it was very likely that he would be trapped by Baianan. Then, the Yi family and the Qin family would be in-laws. This was the combination of strong, the unchanging principle of the upper class, and a circle that many people couldn't squeeze into. And Sumu didn't care about these at all. In her eyes and heart, there was only her first love in college. Chapter 4970. Yi Xiangnan was a little curious. How talented was Shun Wenxuan back then for Su Mu to be so infatuated with him? After so many years, she still couldn't forget about him, even after having child. Would she be as good as him? He was the one who had hugged her. Wasn't it said that women were especially obsessed with their first man? Or was she not satisfied with him? Just thinking about it made Yi Xiangnan's expression turn a little ugly. He felt the need to clear his name. He was used to being domineering, especially to a little invisible person like Su Mu. He didn't need to be polite. He tilted his head. Stay. I'll make you satisfied. Su Mu was stunned for a while before she understood what he meant. She suddenly felt her mouth go dry and licked her lips. What do you mean? There was an indescribable look in Yi Xiangnan's eyes. It's exactly what you're thinking. Yi Xiangnan, you're shameless. She swung her hand and was about to hit him, but he caught her. Hit me again? He stared at her face. Su Mu, why are you unhappy with me? He let go of her and sat up straighter. Looking ahead, he said softly, I'll do my duty as a husband and give you everything, including the self-esteem you want. Su Mu, don't say that you don't care about this. Wasn't that why you ran away from home with Cymbidium Chinense the last time? I really don't know why you care so much. You're my wife. Who can look down on you? Just stay at home or play mahjong with a few wives. You don't have to work so hard. Just listen to what my mother said. Don't take it seriously. Didn't she also ask for a job in the past? Now, isn't she still playing mahjong and drinking tea? That's the life of a rich woman. Su Mu looked away and looked out of the window. That's not what I want, and it's not what I can get. He was probably used to the people around him being like this. Whether it was his mother or Baianan's mother, they all had very strong backgrounds. They had lived like this since they were young, and their husbands treated them very well after they got married. As for Su Mu, what did she have? She had nothing. How could he have the right to enjoy peace and comfort? Su Mu understood that the Cymbidium Chinense no longer belonged to her, and she only had herself. That was why she was clear-headed enough to know what she wanted. What Yi Xiangnan meant by giving was not forever, but alms. In other words, she was an accessory of the Cymbidium Chinense. A mother's value depended on her son's value. So how could she be valuable? Yi Xiangnan is tired of the novelty. It will be embarrassing for her to be Mrs. Yi. Can she let Wen Yuan protect her all the time? Su Mu smiles lightly. Thank you for your appreciation, Mr. Yi, but I still want to rely on myself. Rely on yourself? Yi Xiangnan sneers. Do you think it's easy to rely on yourself? You majored in media. Do you think you can be a paparazzi without a certain relationship? He squints at her, or be killed by others. Su Mu breathes out a long sigh. You think too much, Mr. Yi. Yi Xiangnan is still cold. Su Mu, you have to pay the price for being outstanding. Just look at Baianan's identity. Do you know what she has experienced? She was sent blood clothes, made threatening phone calls, and almost kidnapped. Su Mu, are you sure you want to do this, or find a unit to eat and wait for death? Saying that, he smiles. Most people are playful. I think you are probably the same. You think it's a career when you find a job, and then you have the confidence to challenge men. In fact, it's not necessary. The Yi family doesn't lack the salary. As long as you take good care of the Cymbidium Chinense, you can have everything. As long as you don't cross the line, I don't think we will divorce. We will have a daughter in 2 years, okay? Chapter 4971. 69 books. Sumu was silent for a long time, and then she smiled faintly. Thank you for your love, Mr. Yi. I'm really not interested in such a life. If I'm just hanging around outside, I'm no different from a nanny in Ye's family. She also had an ideal. Even the most difficult days with Cymbidium Chinense, she didn't give up. She thought that one day Cymbidium Chinense would grow up and be able to take care of herself. She could do what she wanted and live the life she wanted. Yi Xiaonan's face was dark. He felt that he had coaxed her well today, but she was really unmoved by force or persuasion. He ran out of patience and frowned. What else are you dissatisfied with? Sumu didn't answer this question. Yi Xiaonan thought for a while and smiled. Are you still waiting for Xinwen Xuan? Just give up. I advise you, Sumu, that we've already gotten our marriage certificate. You're now my legal wife. Do you think I'll just give you to someone else? Sumu felt that he was really unreasonable, and at the same time, she understood his conspiracy. Today's matter was a two-man show performed by him and Secretary Li from the beginning to the end. Secretary Li was really good. Sumu endured it. I stayed here for one night because I wanted to comfort Xiangnan. Sleep at my place. Mr. Ye's voice was hoarse. Today we got the certificate, and we have to celebrate. Sumu ignored him directly and patted the window, opened the door. Seeing that she didn't want to leave, Yi Xiaonan smiled and opened the door to let her get out. Sumu entered the hall. Aunt Chen was also a smart person. She had already got the news that Mr. Yi and Mrs. Yi had got the certificate, so she went forward to call Mrs. Yi. Sumu felt uncomfortable. Just call me Miss Su. Mr. Yi and I are still the same as before. With Annie Wang as an example, Annie Chen was especially careful. She smiled and said, How can it be the same? It's not the same. Madam is now Sir's sweetheart. In the future, please guide us more, madam. In addition to Annie Chen, there were 2 more talkative people in the villa. They must have been trained and sent here by Wen Yuan. They followed Annie Chen and said good things about Sumu politely, almost praising her to the heavens. Sumu even suspected that she had seen wrongly. She was indeed a peerless beauty, but even if she had heard these flattering words, she couldn't take them seriously. How could she not know what she looked like after so many years? Anyway, she didn't have to deal with them in the future, so she just responded with a few words and wanted to take her son upstairs. At this time, Yi Xiaonan came in. He looked in Sumu's direction and smiled meaningfully. It was true that the feeling of being flattered was very good. No one was disgusted, but Sumu was very clear. If Yi Xiaonan thought highly of her, these people would flatter her. If Yi Xiaonan didn't want to see her, she would have nothing. She took Cymbidium Chinense upstairs. Cymbidium Chinense was a little uneasy at first, but Sumu took care of him, bathed him, slept him, and told him stories as usual. He hadn't been with his mother for 2 days and missed her very much. He couldn't bear to sleep, so he forced his eyes open and looked at her, asking her to tell him more stories. Sumu was a little sad. She also wanted to be with her son, but Sumu had a problem. She had to do what she wanted to do. Just like back then, she wanted to give birth to Cymbidium Chinense. Her family didn't want it, but she tried her best to give birth. That year was the most miserable year Sumu had ever lived. When she was 8 months pregnant, she was still washing dishes in a small restaurant just to earn money to go to the hospital to give birth to Cymbidium Chinense. Chapter 4972. That year was the worst year Sumu had ever experienced. When she was 8 months pregnant, she was still washing dishes in a small restaurant to earn money to go to the hospital to give birth to Cymbidium Chinense. That winter, her hand split open and it was very painful. It was so painful that she wanted to cry, but thinking about the cost of giving birth and living expenses, she worked hard to save money. For 10 months, she worked hard to live frugally, lived in the worst house, and gave birth to Cymbidium chinense. The 20,000 yuan she saved allowed her to get through the difficult days. Even when she was pregnant, she didn't even have a year of maternity clothes. They were all given to her by the kind people next door. When she was pregnant with Cymbidium chinense, she repeatedly told the doctor to reduce the number of checkups, as long as the child was healthy. At first, the doctor didn't agree. Later, when he found out that she was pregnant before marriage, he sighed and lowered the examination fee from more than 3,000 yuan to about 1,000 yuan. Su Mu was very thin. Originally, it was not suitable for natural childbirth, but she said she wanted to give it a try. She was so thin, so small, and more than 9 months pregnant, she still looked like she was malnourished. However, even when she was lying in the delivery room like that, the doctor was surprised she was too strong. Under such conditions, she actually gave birth smoothly. In fact, it was not that she was strong, but if it did not go smoothly, she would have to undergo surgery, and she would have to pay a few thousand yuan more. In addition, she could not take care of the child. She was alone. She gave birth to the child, and her mother did not come to see her. Her father secretly came once. He had no money and only put 500 yuan next to the pillow, saying that it was to buy some food for the child. After Father Su left, Su Mu cried for a long time. She knew that it would be difficult in the future, but she never regretted giving birth to Cymbidium chinense. Not even for a moment. She was very thrifty, and she saved everything, but she always chose better and more practical things for Cymbidium chinense. When Cymbidium chinense was 2 months old, she took on a manual job because the sister next door introduced her to her. If she worked 6 to 7 hours a day, she could earn a little more than 1,000 yuan a month. It wasn't much, but she could still get by if she saved a little. There had always been 10,000 yuan in her bank account, but when she was in Cymbidium chinense for 6 months, she had spent it all due to pneumonia, and it was not enough at all. She was the one who begged the attending doctor for conservative treatment. As for her, she stayed in the hospital for 6 days and 6 nights without a wink of sleep. At that time, the situation was critical, and Su Mu was about to go crazy. If anything happened to Cymbidium chinense, then her life would be completely dark. She would even doubt if she was wrong. But that morning, Cymbidium chinense woke up. He stared at Su Mu with his big, bright eyes. He could not speak yet, but he could smile. He grinned. He wasn't well nourished, so he didn't have any teeth. When he smiled, his gums were exposed, and he looked extremely cute. At that moment, Su Mu smiled with tears streaming down her face. She had been redeemed. Cymbidium chinense slowly fell asleep, and Su Mu accompanied him. It was quiet all around. Perhaps it was because this was a villa, and it was much quieter than the old apartment in the city. Su Mu sat and accompanied Cymbidium chinense. She couldn't look at him every day in the future, but she was willing to look at him every day. At about 9:30 a.m., the door opened. Yi Xiangnan had already taken a shower and was wearing a white bathrobe. He frowned and looked at her. "Why aren't you done yet?" Su Mu sat there without moving. "I'll sleep here." He walked over and unexpectedly hugged her from behind. He even touched her hair with his chin. "Didn't we agree?" Su Mu was a little annoyed. She had been tricked by him today, and now he was making such a request of her. Chapter 4973. Updated quickly. Su Mu was a little annoyed and spoke without thinking. She instinctively wanted to punch and kick Yi Xian'an, but the difference in strength between a man and a woman was so clear. Her little bit of strength was practically all show and no substance. Yi Xian'an easily restrained her. "Yi Xiangnan, I've never seen a man as shameless as you." Su Mu gritted her teeth. He scoffed coldly and said unhappily, "I've never seen a woman as stubborn as you. You want to attract the servants, alarm my parents, and then rush over in the middle of the night?" He was really shameless, but Yi Xiangnan didn't think that he was that shameless because they had registered their marriage, and she was his wife now. She was the one who was too much. She didn't let him interact with other women, and she was giving him the cold shoulder. What kind of logic was that? But in the end, he was really afraid that his parents would be alarmed, and that wouldn't be good. He was naturally in a bad mood, and he slammed the door hard. Sumu lay quietly for a while, then suddenly got up, rushed to the door, and locked it from the inside. She took a deep breath and let out a long breath. She didn't feel that she was his wife, but he felt that she was. He was really arrogant. Leaning against the door, she didn't even dare to go out, afraid that he would change his mind again. She didn't know why he wanted to be married to her with her average looks. There were many women waiting for him outside, weren't there? After the struggle just now, she could barely stand, and her body slowly slid down. She simply sat on the carpet and spaced out for a while. After a long time, she went to the bathroom to take a shower and found a shirt from Yi Xiangnan as her pajamas. She thought that she wouldn't be able to sleep, but she didn't know how she fell asleep the moment she laid down. Sumu had a dream that night. She dreamed of Shun Wenxuan, dreamed of the past, and dreamed of Yi Xiangnan, dreamed that he was going to have another child with her. When she woke up, the sky was already bright, and even the sun shone in. It was quite comfortable when it shone on him. The sun was warm and comfortable. Sumu buried her face in the pillow and almost didn't want to wake up. The pillow was very soft, the bedsheet was very comfortable, and everything was very comfortable. There was also that faint masculine scent, which made one feel at ease just by smelling it. Male breath? She abruptly opened her eyes and was faced with Yi Xiangnan's enlarged, handsome face. Sumu reached out and touched her face. He seemed to have kissed her face. Wait, how did he get in? How did he get in? Yi Xiangnan straightened his body, crossed his arms in front of him, and leaned against the bedside table, sizing her up. What's the matter? You tried so hard to chase me out last night, and now you're wearing my shirt? Sumu, isn't that a good rule? Sumu bit her lip. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. Yi Xiangnan was not in a hurry to leave. He watched how she got up from the bed. She was probably only wearing his shirt. He was so bad. Sumu pursed her lips. Get out. This is my room. Why'd I have to go out? Yi Xiangnan bent down slightly and said with a chuckle, But why are you staying here, huh? He even gently touched her hair, and his voice unconsciously became hoarse. Or, do all women say one thing and mean another? You're the one who says one thing and means another. Sumu bit her lip and hit him with a pillow. Get out. I'm getting up. Go to sleep. You don't seem to have anything to do today. I'll send Cymbidium Chinense home. He didn't make things difficult for her, because Cymbidium Chinense was going to school, and he didn't have time to waste with her. Yi Xiangnan left and went downstairs briskly. Last night wasn't pleasant, but for some reason, Yi Xiangnan wasn't in a bad mood. When he went downstairs, Cymbidium Chinense had already finished his breakfast and was sitting there obediently. Seeing Yi Xiangnan coming down, Cymbidium Chinense immediately stood up. Dad. His gaze drifted up the stairs. Yi Xiangnan knew what he wanted to ask. He smiled faintly. Mom hasn't gotten up yet. Dad will send you to the nursery. Cymbidium Chinense carried a small school bag and looked very energetic and happy. Yi Xiangnan looked at the little guy and was in a good mood. A successful man. Didn't he say that he had power, wealth, a wife, and a child? He had them all now. He took Cymbidium Chinense to the car and fastened the seatbelt for him. Before leaving, he turned his head. Let's go now. Cymbidium Chinense grunted. Let's go. Yi Xiangnan drove his son all the way to the nursery with his sunglasses on. He got off the car with Cymbidium Chinense in his arms. Usually, he said that he shouldn't spoil him too much, but now he kissed him reluctantly. Dad will pick you up tonight. Can you stay at Dad's place tonight? Cymbidium Chinense's eyes widened. Dad, what about Mom? Will she stay with us? I think so. Yi Xiangnan pinched his son's nose. She won't be able to reject Cymbidium Chinense. After saying that, he smiled. All right, let's go in. Cymbidium Chinense nodded obediently and ran all the way in. At the door of the nursery, the middle-aged female teacher touched his head lovingly. Then, she greeted Yi Xiangnan from afar. Yi Xiangnan smiled faintly. The female teachers blushed. After all, President Yi was a good-looking young master from a wealthy family, the kind that young and old liked. Yi Xiangnan got into the car and left. He didn't know that the matter of him and Su Mu getting their marriage certificate on the day the child went to school had become a school legend. Rumors were quite shameful. Yi Xiangnan didn't care about these things. He held the steering wheel with both hands. He was going to go straight to the company. He still had an important morning meeting this morning, but when the car was halfway there, he turned around and went back to his villa. He wanted to see if Su-mu was still there. Annie-chun was surprised to see his car driving back. "Sir, why are you back again?" Yi Xiangnan parked the car and jumped out. "I forgot something." He walked upstairs. As he walked, he seemed to have thought of something and asked casually, "By the way, has Su-mu woken up?" Annie-chun finally got the point. She coughed lightly. "Miss Su left a long time ago." Yi Xiangnan stopped and turned his head. His expression didn't look good. "Left? So soon?" He stood on the stairs and asked softly, "Did she have breakfast?" Annie-chun replied calmly. How could she not entertain her? No matter what, she still ate. "She's going back now." This woman is really... Yi Xiangnan was a little speechless. Couldn't she just live her life peacefully? Why did she have to do these things? He let out a long sigh and didn't say anything else. He went straight downstairs and prepared to go to the company. Annie-chun didn't get it for a moment. She asked casually, "Sir, you haven't taken your things yet." Yi Xiangnan was stunned. He said calmly, "I don't think I forgot." So Annie-chun thought that this forgotten thing was probably Miss Su. Yeah, it was quite important. The previous chapter was just released, and it's already full. If I release it and cut off a part of it, there's still one more chapter. Mwah. Chapter 4974. Annie-chun understood that the thing she forgot was probably Miss Su. Yeah, he took her seriously. In fact, although Miss Su looked ordinary, she was not ugly. Besides, she looked pretty after dressing up that day. She was very thin. Wasn't it popular to be thin now? Maybe Mr. Yi liked Miss Su's figure. Yes, he must like her figure. Yi Xiaonan got in the car. When he started the car, Secretary Li called. Secretary Li's voice was as sweet as ever, but Yi Xiaonan's voice was not so calm. "What's the matter?" According to Secretary Li's experience, CEO Ye's bad mood probably had something to do with women. There was an 80% chance that the newly appointed Madam Yi was not to his liking. It was true that a melon forcibly picked would not be sweet. Didn't CEO Yi know this? Now that they got their marriage certificate, he forced them to live together. Wasn't that forcing them to live together? Anyway, if it were her, she wouldn't be willing. Secretary Li's voice became softer and sweeter. She smiled. "CEO Yi, there's a morning meeting this morning. Besides, the overseas manager Lin also came back to report. She has to fly in the afternoon." Yi Xiangnan pulled his tie. "Reschedule the morning meeting to the afternoon." Secretary Li's voice was sweet and emotionless. "But Manager Lin has to fly in the afternoon." Yi Xiangnan was in a bad mood. "Am I the only one in the company?" Secretary Li knew it was not good, so she said in a low voice, "There are several vice presidents." Yi Xiangnan said emotionlessly, "Then let her talk to them separately. Then we can discuss in groups. I just want the result." Secretary Li heard that. How overbearing was he? How much did he look down on Manager Lin? How did Manager Lin offend CEO Yi? Didn't CEO Yi treat Manager Lin well in the past? He changed so suddenly. This man was really a pig trotter. Secretary Li hung up the phone and went to talk to Lin Lu. She didn't like Lin Lu to begin with, so of course she wouldn't beautify it. She bluntly repeated Yi Xiannan's words. Lin Lu's meticulously made-up face was a little disappointed and even a little angry. She thought that she would be able to see Yi Xiangnan today and explain what happened yesterday to him. She wanted to behave appropriately and win against Su-mu. But Yi Xiangnan did not give her the chance at all. Lin Lu was especially annoyed. She bit her lip and didn't say anything for a long time. Secretary Li coughed lightly. "Manager Lin, a few vice presidents are still waiting for you." Lin Lu was stalling for time. She was unwilling to go. She couldn't take this lying down. After half an hour, Secretary Li came to her temporary office and told her that Boss Yi was here and asked her to report to him. Lin Lu felt that she didn't wear this dress in vain. She immediately went to Yi Xiangnan's office. She always thought that there would be some private space. However, apart from Yi Xiangnan, there was also a vice president and Secretary Li. Moreover, she didn't directly report to Yi Xiangnan. He just listened. The vice president was not polite to her. He pointed out some bad things directly. Because of his high position, his voice was strict. Yi Xiangnan didn't blame her. He did everything according to the rules. After the report, Lin Lu hid in the toilet and cried bitterly. Secretary Li heard from outside and sighed again. Men were all pig trotters. How much confidence did Lin Lu have in herself? A man like Bossy had seen all kinds of women. Chapter 4975. Secretary Li sighed while washing her hands. When Lin Lu came out, her eyes were red. Secretary Li just looked at her and didn't say anything. After washing her hands, she left. Lin Lu knew that this woman must be going to the company to promote her affairs. She gritted her teeth, but couldn't do anything to Secretary Li. Lin Lu had been in the workplace for a long time, so she had some self-awareness. Although Secretary Li was just a secretary, she was absolutely more important than herself in CEO Ye's heart. An overseas director could be trained at any time, but a suitable secretary was not always available. Especially this secretary and CEO Ye were in cahoots. Lin Lu knew it too well, so she didn't dare to do anything even though she was angry. She just went to the overseas department to vent her anger, but she didn't know that the women there were not to be trifled with. They knew that she was transferred overseas, so they were secretly demoted. In fact, she didn't have much face in front of CEO Yi. If she really cared about the overseas department, she would have done it every day. Besides, CEO Yi just got his marriage certificate yesterday. He was a big shot, so the family was the most important. Rich families were always like that. Lin Lu didn't vent her anger, but she had a belly full of anger, which was very uncomfortable. But she still had to fly in the afternoon. Before the flight, Lin Lu held her phone in the VIP lounge, wanting to call Yi Xiangnan. But in the end, she held the phone for a few minutes and didn't dare to make the call. When the plane was about to take off, she got on the plane. At the headquarters of Starlight, everyone knew that CEO Yi was in a bad mood. Everyone felt strange. Didn't he just give out sweets yesterday? Why did his face turn black now? Secretary Li had always been the focus of the cultural export of Starlight. From what she heard, everyone in Starlight knew that the new Mrs. Yi didn't like CEO Yi. Alas, they sighed at Su Mu's ignorance. This was the dream of many women. Didn't she know CEO Yi's assets? But on the other hand, everyone admired her very much. How much courage did it take to refuse CEO Yi and this overwhelming wealth? If it were them, CEO Yi could do whatever he wanted. Self-esteem, it was nothing. In his office, Yi Xiangnan was in a bad mood. The afternoon meeting was even worse, and the atmosphere of Starlight was even more depressed. Secretary Li, who was in charge of communication and culture, was also criticized by CEO Yi. Secretary Li also felt wronged. She had tried her best to control her mouth, but she couldn't be blamed. However, when his boss was in a bad mood, not only did Secretary Li empathize with him, but he also had a hard time. In fact, Secretary Li didn't know why CEO Li was so. In fact, Secretary Li didn't know how Miss Su had captivated CEO Yi. It couldn't be said that he liked her very much. He just wanted to conquer her. As a woman, she had sympathy, but she was a secretary. CEO Yi had just given her a red packet, so she had to share her burden. Therefore, Secretary Li looked at CEO Yi and coughed softly. CEO Yi, you just got your marriage certificate. Is there anything else you haven't done? For example, you haven't signed any agreements. Secretary Li looked at CEO Yi and coughed. Didn't you sign the prenuptial agreement last time? But it was invalid. Do you need to sign it again? Secretary Li blinked. Didn't we sign a prenuptial agreement the last time? But it was voided. Now that we have our marriage certificate, shouldn't we sign it again? Chapter 4976. Not bad. Yi Xiangnan put down the pen in his hand. I forgot about the prenuptial agreement. It's time to prepare it. Secretary Li thought to herself that CEO Yi must be forgetful to forget about it. It was said that beauties hurt the country, but Miss Su wasn't that beautiful either. However, Miss Su had a good temperament when she dressed up. A rare good temperament. Temperament was very picky. Some women might not have temperament even after cultivating for a lifetime, but some people were born with it. Sumu was obviously one of them. God didn't give her a good appearance, but he gave her temperament. This could be considered as compensation. Secretary Li was clear about it. She also felt that Sumu was very clear-headed. For a man like CEO Yi, he didn't have a woman except for Qini Huan in the past 30 years. He was also sincere to Qini Huan. However, they didn't get married. His sincerity was fed to the dogs. It didn't matter anymore. At this time, he was just curious about Sumu and conquered her. He didn't like her that much. As soon as Secretary Li said this, Yi Xianin echoed. Secretary Li smiled. CEO Yi, I'll inform Lawyer Chun to prepare the documents. Yi Xiangnan nodded. He was going to call Sumu himself. But Secretary Li suddenly thought of something. By the way, CEO Yi, Lawyer Chen didn't come to the company this morning because he didn't feel well. Is Mr. Chen okay? Yi Xiangnan was quite concerned. Lawyer Chun was not only the senior of the company, but also his elder. Mr. Chun had a good relationship with his grandfather. Secretary Li smiled. I've called him. It's just a common cold with a low fever. He should be fine. Yi Xiangnan was relieved. Then he flipped through the documents in his hand. Then let Lawyer Shin come. He hasn't quit yet, right? Secretary Li secretly rolled her eyes. Wasn't CEO Yi a little too much? However, Yi Xiangnan didn't think that he was going overboard. He felt that it was reasonable. Of course, he had to see his wife. Of course, he wouldn't be happy if she had an ambiguous relationship with Shen Liangchuan. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he made the two of them give up completely. Secretary Li went out to handle the matter, while he casually called Sumu and asked her to come to the company to sign something. It was related to the shares of Stars Entertainment. Sumu wanted to avoid arousing suspicion. He had long known her bad temper, so he was not afraid that she would not come. Sure enough, as soon as he said that, Sumu said that she would come over in a while. After making the call, Yi Xiangnan was in a great mood. He even went up and down the building to inspect it. The whole starry sky could be seen. CEO Yi was in a good mood. Secretary Li knew that she wanted to relieve CEO Ye's boredom, but she didn't want to offend Sumu. How could she watch the scene later? Even a blind person could see that Lawyer Shun and Sumu hadn't forgotten each other. They still wanted to sign something like that on the same occasion. Secretary Li went to inform them. Sure enough, Lawyer Shun's eyes were filled with a deep look. After a moment, he just smiled faintly. Sure enough, CEO Yi always does whatever he wants. Only if he didn't consider a person's feelings would he be like this. If it were him, he wouldn't be willing. What Yi Xiangnan wanted was not Sumu's love, but to yield, or to see Sumu happy. It was quite childish, but at the same time, it was quite selfish. As for love, there was absolutely no such thing. Chapter 4977. Secretary Li sighed. Lawyer Shun, is there any problem here? If you don't want to go, you can just say that you are sick and ask for leave. There are so many lawyers in Stars Entertainment. There must be someone who can do it. In fact, it was just a formality. With Sumu's temper, she probably wouldn't look at the whole Stars Entertainment, even if it was put in front of her. Secretary Li heard that when Yuan liked Sumu very much, probably because of this. In any case, she would never be able to treat money as dirt like that. After she finished speaking, Shan Wenxuan shook his head. I'll go. It was embarrassing for Sumu. Besides, Yi Xiangnan was targeting him. If he couldn't do it today, he would let him know that Sumu was Yi Xiangnan's wife in the future. There would be such a day, but not today. There would always be someone who would see Sumu sign, not as good as him. Shen Wenxuan continued to work and said calmly, if Sumu comes, just call me on the inside. He still calls her Sumu and still doesn't want to call her Mrs. Yi. Why should he talk about it when Sumu didn't want to admit her identity? Secretary Li felt sorry for Lawyer Shun, so she coughed softly. Lawyer Shun, I'm going out. I'll call you later. Shen Wenxuan looked up and smiled, watching the popular person beside Yi Xiangnan leave. Yes, she was a popular person. Secretary Li had her own merits to be able to stay with the bad-tempered CEO Yi. It wasn't that she was charming, but they were birds of a feather. Secretary Li returned to her office, poured a cup of herbal tea, and drank a big cup. The second secretary came over and whispered, What's wrong? Did CEO Yi scold you, sisterly? Secretary Li glanced at her. Little girl, am I such a blind person? Can't you see that CEO Yi is in a good mood now? That's true. The second secretary muttered to herself and then asked, Sisterly, what method did you use? CEO Yi is super hard to please. I haven't seen him smile in the past 6 months. Secretary Li rolled her eyes. Coax? Only a woman like Lu needs to coax CEO Yi. I'm doing what he likes. The second secretary was quite interested and asked her how she could cater to his taste. The content was a little dirty. Secretary Li was a little annoyed. That's a little harsh. It's better not to mention it. Anyway, CEO Yi is happy, but someone is unhappy. In the future, Mu would not let her off easily. God knows how hard it is to be a secretary. Sandwich biscuits. After more than half an hour, Mu arrived. Secretary Li received her and asked the second secretary to inform Lawyer Shun that Miss Su had arrived. 10 minutes later, Shun Wenxuan and Mu met in Yi Xiangnan's office. The scene was rather awkward. Neither of them spoke much. Yi Xiangnan, on the other hand, was in a good mood. After last night, Mu was very disgusted with him and ran away early in the morning. Now she was also very unwilling to see him, and she did not expect that he would ask Shun Wenxuan to do this. Mu didn't come here to sign. She came here to explain. Mr. Yi, Cymbidium Chinense has gone to school. If it's convenient for you here, we can renew the certificate today, she said in a kind voice. In order to go to school with Cymbidium Chinense, she became a second marriage. Although she had a child, her reputation had long been ruined. Yi Xiangnan sat on the sofa and said lightly, It's not very convenient. In addition to the nursery, there are primary schools, middle schools, and universities. All of them need a household register. Chapter 4978. Mu was furious. He was a scoundrel. She didn't understand his intentions before, but it was clear after last night. Mu pursed her lips and said softly, You will get married in the future. Aren't we married already? Are you going to push me to someone else? Yi Xiangnan smiled frivolously and deliberately teased her. Seeing that she couldn't say a word in front of Shun Wenxuan, he was in a good mood. So what if it was his first love? She was his wife now. How could Shun Wenxuan say a word that their marriage was fake? Shun Wenxuan was in the legal team, so he knew that the words on the marriage certificate were the most real. It was much better than first love. Only an idiot like Mu would believe that a nursery would ask for a marriage certificate. Did the Yi family have to use a marriage certificate to choose which school they wanted to attend? After Yi Xiangnan finished speaking, Mu couldn't take it anymore. It didn't matter if she was embarrassed, but there was no need for Shun Wenxuan to accompany her. Shun Wenxuan worked at Stars Entertainment, and everyone in Stars Entertainment knew about her, Yi Xiangnan, and him. She didn't want Shun Wenxuan to be criticized because of her. She had already let him down when she left without saying goodbye. She didn't want to embarrass him again. Now that Yi Xiangnan wanted to sign it, she would sign it. Mu took the pen and pursed her lips. What do you want me to sign? I'll sign it. Yi Xiangnan's gaze fell on her face. After a while, he smiled and said, You have a backbone. Sign all the documents here. Lawyer Shun will do it after you sign it. Mu glanced at him, but didn't dare to look at Shun Wenxuan. She lowered her head, turned the pages one by one, and signed her name. She wrote very quickly, as if she didn't want to read a word clearly. Actually, one more marriage certificate wouldn't affect her much. She didn't want to get married for the time being. In her heart, she was sure that Yi Xiangnan would want to get married one day. If he got tired of it and didn't want to play anymore, he would naturally let her go. She still knew what Mu looked like. After signing, Mu looked up. Are you satisfied? His attitude is not very good, Yi Xiangnan said in a dignified manner. He said to Shun Wenxuan politely, Lawyer Chen isn't feeling well, so I'll leave the legal team's matters to you. Also, go visit Lawyer Chen after work. He's your teacher after all, and he takes good care of you. He thought for a moment and suddenly said, Also, Lawyer Chen will be retiring next year. I hope that you will take over the legal team. The annual salary will satisfy you. Think about it. Shun Wenxuan smiles faintly. I will consider it, Boss Yi. He took the documents and got up to leave. But when he opened the door, he turned to look at Sumu. Sumu lowered her eyes and didn't speak. She didn't want to embarrass him in the company. After the door was closed, Sumu looked at the door and was a little lost in thought. Yi Xiangnan went to the wine cabinet and poured himself a glass of brandy. He took a sip and then smiled. Don't look at her anymore. She has left. If you want to see her, I can arrange a position for you in the company. You can see her every day if you come here every day. Sumu felt that he was boring and turned her head. Mr. Yi doesn't seem to say such sour words. Yi Xiangnan smiled again and put down the glass in his hand. He walked over and put his hands on both sides of the sofa. Such a distance made her a little uneasy. Yi Xiangnan, what do you want to do? He still had a careless smile on his face as he reached out and hooked her chin with his slender fingers. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.